Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm super excited to be talking about a new Pokemon TCG format. This is actually, in my opinion, super exciting. I haven't been able to find too much info about it online, to be honest. So if you have any info, I'll leave down below in the comment section. I will say you cannot leave links there, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, if you have any info, that'd be really useful. Because I'm super excited for this new format. Like, legitimately very excited. I play in person some, but mostly standard. Honestly, a proxy a lot. I'm like messing around with random silly stuff, but in terms of actual IRL play, I mostly play standard. But this is the about a draft format, which we're going to talk about, which I do love drafting the Pokemon TCG, but there are some issues with it, which we'll be talking about in this video as well. But anyway, so this is a thing here on the Pokemon website which I saw some people talking about, and pretty much Pokemon League is you can play Pokemon, no pun intended, and there's going to be some fun stuff, some standees, and some what stickers I think are these things here, which are fine. They're cool, I guess. I personally don't really care about them, but if you do, then here they are. They are available to where is it? People who max out league activity points. Which are something you can track using something. I don't know. Honestly, this isn't something I care about that much. But the thing I do care about is this other thing here, which is the new battle box. So as you can see, this article isn't very long, and the section article covering it is also not that long. And looking at the the other new stuff. There isn't anything else about it here. I'm pretty sure, unless I missed it. So someone again, tell me if I missed it. This is being recorded probably like 2 days before I'm releasing it as well. If there's any info that I missed or info that comes out after recording this video that is relevant, I will leave that in the comment section. I don't expect there to be, but if there is, then I'll leave that there. But this is a new product, which is a battle box. This is a battle box, includes everything two trainers, including instructions, which aren't here, right? They don't have the instructions here. But this is a quick and easy drafting experience, building 40 card decks exclusively using battle box cards. Energy isn't provided. You will need that. It's not drafted either. You will need that from your store, or I guess from wherever, but probably your store. Then there's only one copy of each card in the battle box. It says each time you battle will be a fun new experience. This is interesting to me. I mean, I don't know. I suppose I'm saying that each time will be a fun new experience. It's kind of just like filler stuff. Not that it's not true, but like like every game in the Pokemon TCG isn't like always super different. Some games are. Some games are really unique. But anyways, with that, that's interesting. Being Singleton, which we will talk about some, and with that, that means that there's probably gonna be a wide variety of decks, but like I don't know what percentage of the cards you're using. If you're using most of the cards, then you're going to end up with these kind of weird mismatch of like cards in deck, which can be really fun. But that won't necessarily be a super unique experience every time. But if there's a lot more cards than you actually end up playing with, then you will have a potentially pretty unique experience. Also, this is a 40 card deck format, and it's called the Battle Box. This is not the same as the build and battle kits or whatever they're called. The pre-release kits is what most people call them. That's what I call them. But I think they're called build and battle kits or something, or build and battle boxes. They're very similarly named to this, so that is pretty interesting. They are different, but yeah, these contain, as it says, like one of every card and things like that. And it says that please note these cards must be returned to the battle box so more trainers can continue enjoying the draft experience. So this is a thing intended to be at your local game store that you go to and you play with there, and not a pre-release kit, which is something that also kind of meets those description that I said. But with a pre-release kit, that's something that you're buying, right? You buy that, you play, but you buy it there. And oh yeah, the stuff at the bottom isn't even about it either. So we have this one paragraph here, as well as this image here for Alligator, Metagross, and Infernape are just a few Pokemon you can expect to see in the battle box, which this is interesting. These Pokemon here, the Fragile and Metagross, I believe, are from Temporal Forces, and Infernape's from Twilight Masquerade. All right, let me just double check on that on Limitless here. Alligator is definitely from Temporal Forces. It is a pre-release promo. Infernape is also a pre-release promo, right? Yeah, from Twilight Masquerade. And then Metagross is not a pre-release promo. It is from Temporal Forces. Yeah, wait, that's this one. However, from Temporal Forces, we have. Oh, by the way, if you didn't know this, pre-releases. It says the set. It's not actually in that set. It is a promo. If you didn't know that, except for one of the sets. I think Destined Rivals. Destined Rivals didn't have promos, right? Wait, what were their promos? I forget. I don't think I play in this one. The Misty's Gyarados was one, right? I'm pretty sure, and yeah, so we don't see a separate printing of that. But anyways, they are promos. They're like not in the regular set there, if you didn't know that. But anyways, getting back to Metagross. Metagross here, also Matang, which is a pre-release promo. So this is interesting. Obviously, this is not the pre-release promo in that's being showed here. Presumably not the card in the actual kit. But it is interesting they are highlighting pre-release promos. Pre-release promos are honestly Pokemon that are pretty cool. Pre-release promos for the most part are single prizers that are pretty interesting with like somewhat interesting things. I mean, all three of these here have abilities. Obviously, the Metagross doesn't have an ability, but the Matang does. Matang is good, or it's okay. I guess Matang is probably the best of these three. Well, it's not here. Metagross is here. They're all stage twos as well, which is interesting. I will mention that there are different draft formats. So if you're not familiar with how drafting works, this is a two-player draft experience. I'm not super familiar with two-player drafting. Generally, drafting is done with more people. Generally, I'd say like 8 people is the norm, though it does not have to be 8 people. And it's a format where people get simulated packs, which this does have, kind of simulated packs. Well, it has a bunch of cards, and then usually you divide those cards into different packs. Presumably that's how this is going to work. And I will say, also look through the alternative play handbook. There is a Ditto draft format, which I'll talk about a little bit here. This is 2 to 4 people, but it's here it says 4 is the ideal number. More people is generally going to be better. I have done a Ditto draft. It's very fun. I'd actually highly recommend it. But this is not a format that is specialized around like the set of cards isn't really designed, unlike here with the battle box, which has presumably the same set of cards from every battle box. I kind of assume that was the case. Not 100% sure on that. I'm also not sure how evolution lines will work. We'll talk about evolution lines and how they can work. I don't expect. I don't know if I should. I don't expect, but I don't necessarily think it. I think it could be normal evolution. I think it could not be normal evolution as well. There's the drafting. You get some packs, and then you draft them. A traditional like booster draft would be using. I think that's how the Ditto draft works. That's how I've done it. Certainly, each player receives a pack. Oh, I forgot they used build and battle kits with the trainers. I didn't do that when I did a Ditto draft, but you get a pack. Or each person gets a pack. They'll open that pack, and then you go ahead and I should talk about V-Star markers and basic energies. I forgot they had V-Star markers and packs, but you open your pack. And then each player selects one card from their pack and then pass it to the next person. This is not how two-person drafts usually work. I guess this is how you do it with 2 people for the Ditto draft. But yeah, that's generally kind of weird. I guess I'll mention the idea of hate drafting. Hate drafting is the idea of drafting cards your opponents want that aren't necessarily like good for you, right? So let's say you're building a fire deck and your opponent's building a the types of thought of had a weakness. Lightning. We'll go with those two. Those two don't have weakness there, and so if you're building a fire deck, then you want to take good fire cards. But if you see a really good lightning card and it's just 2 people, they really want that good lightning card. That's super good for them, and so you can take that, and so they can't have it. If you're in like a draft of say 8 people, which is obviously a lot bigger, then you hurting one person, but also hurting yourself is like not really very good. It might help you a little bit in that one situation. It's not like a terrible thing to do, but generally not something amazing to do if you have better options there. But then, the less people you have, the more that this idea of like hate drafting, taking cards away from them that they want is a bigger deal. So with a 2-player draft, then you're going to have a different draft format as well, generally. There's a bunch of 2-player draft formats. The one I'm most familiar with might be called I don't even know. There's like a lot of names as well. The one I'm familiar with is I think it's 9 cards, and then you take out like a row, and then each person like takes a row or something, or maybe you take out 2 rows. Oh wait, no, you each take a row, yeah, or a row or a column. That's not a very good description, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about there. And there's also one where you get like a pack, and then one person divides it in half, the other person takes a half. So that's kind of cool. I've seen that. I believe Tricky Jim made a video on it. That was pretty cool. With that format. So there's some different ones. I've done some two-player drafts, which are like kind of cool. I'm really interested in seeing what format they'll use here. If anyone in the comment section has like done a lot of two-person drafts, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on what formats work the best, and which ones you think have different issues. This is also supposed to be I'd say, relatively new player-friendly thing. I would say two-player drafting probably isn't a very new player friendly thing. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with drafting, but it's also something that a lot of strategy. And if you like make mistakes, it can be really punishing in a way that's not super fun. Your opponent can just like have a lot better deck than you. Um, I suppose that's true in with like if a good player is playing against someone who hasn't like played the game before, um, they're gonna be this is gonna be pretty bad, pretty rough. But I would say that definitely happens in the draft, which can be a longer thing, and you can be kind of out from the beginning. Not that I wouldn't recommend draft, I'd highly recommend it, especially like a booster draft or a cube draft. I'd say newer players can have a lot of fun there, but there it's wider. I mean, there's more people, right? So if you are last, like it's not how far you are from first that matters. That matters some, but how far you are from just say the second to the last person, that'll probably be smaller than if it's just two people there. So, anyways, long story short, I think it's interesting. It's two-player draft format. This means it's easier to do physically because let's be honest, how many people are there going to be showing up for this? But it will be interesting to see, and I am excited to try it out. Then how drafting, or I mentioned how like drafting works. There are different ways they could do that, and as I said, it will be explained in the instructions here. It says it's quick and easy as well. Drafting generally, as I said, isn't like super fast, so it'll be interesting. There are ways to do it quickly, but if you do it super quickly, I did one time. I did a super fast draft, and it felt like a fever dream. It was very strange. So that was an experience there. But as I mentioned, there's also some interesting evolution line stuff. So obviously there are going to be some interesting cards. These are some of the cards that are going to be in it. But with Feraligatr, are we going to see the previous evolutions? I imagine some of you who aren't familiar with this are going to be like, yeah, you like have to have the previous evolutions. But then it's also one copy of every card. So your opponent could just like, if you get a really good stage two, they could just take the basic or the other way around. So that isn't fun because you're going to have all these cards you can't use, in my opinion. I know there are some people who really like Singleton draft. Singleton as in, well, okay, there are also two different like meanings of Singleton. There's one of each card name, like one, there's only one Feraligatr in standard, isn't there? Well, there's not one Metang. So there's multiple Metangs. Yeah, in standard, there's this psychic one. This is not regular Metang. It's a different evolution line. There's this Metang, which I've never seen anyone use, and there's the good one, right? And so you have these two Metangs here, and with the Metangs, they have the same name but are like different. Like they do different things. So when some people are talking about Singleton, especially within the context of draft, like here, they might be talking about Metang and the other Metang is different cards, or they could be saying they're the same card. I'm guessing it's saying they're the same. In which case, again, if your opponent gets a really powerful stage, you can just grab the basic, probably, but we'll see again on the format there. But anyways, that's going to make evolutions really rough to play with. And evolutions are obviously very important. I mean, all three cards they showed here are stage twos. What Ditto draft does, I guess I'll mention Mutant as well here. Mutant is the idea of any basic of a type can evolve into any stage one of that same type, into any stage two of that same type, which is cool. It's something I do in like Cube, and a lot of people do in Cube Draft. If you're familiar with that, I'd actually highly recommend a Mutant Cube Draft for someone who's newer or not. I like Mutant Cube drafting, but it's a lot easier to build from your collection versus with a not Mutant Cube Draft. You can end up with a lot of really boring cards, and yeah. This isn't about that, but I do like Mutant quite a bit. But there's also the Ditto rule. I'm going to say the Ditto rule is super complicated. Like I don't know, it's kind of complicated. I'll just read it here. So it says that once during your turn before you attack, you may place a Ditto marker on one of your basic Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box. It gains the following ability, which is Evolutionary Advantage. The ability itself isn't that complicated. Once during your turn, you may put any base stage one or stage two onto this Pokemon to evolve it. You can't use this ability during your first turn. Or the turn this Pokemon is put into play. And if a stage 2 is put onto it, then your turn ends. Each Pokemon can only use one Evolutionary Advantage ability per game. Not sure why that matters. Once the Pokemon evolves, it'll fall off. I've seen this like wording on different cards, and it like never makes any sense because it like never matters. But anyways, it's here. So this is interesting. It allows you to evolve any basic into any evolution, which is really cool and really important for this. Every time I've done this, I've done this a bunch with some different things, and people always get confused about it. I literally went to a tournament which was the pack battle format, which also uses this evolutionary advantage Ditto rule. And I went to two. And both the judges said different things. They like said completely different things. So long story short, though, you evolve your basics into other Pokemon. This allows you to play around a lot more with types, and Mutant does not. Mutant really puts you into a type, which I think can be cool, but not necessarily what you want. In some ways, it makes the drafting experience simpler as well, because you kind of know what you're looking for in terms of types, and you're thinking more about types, and then you think about some synergies as well. But you're thinking about types and what type you want to be in, and cool cards you like in a type. With a draft where it's just regular evolution rules. You're thinking about an evolution line, right? And you're going to be picking up some Pokemon that are just there for previous evolutions, a lot more than Mutant. And then with this, you're picking up all the coolest Pokemon you can find. Typing matters some, right? Typing matters some for attacking. You need energies of a certain type, but also you don't need to stick to it too much. I think this or not this one. I think pack battles energies of every type as well. So energy like type doesn't matter literally at all there. But yeah, it is definitely interesting to see. We'll also see how many trainers are in this. I hope there's a bunch of trainers. Some new player products tend to have not a lot of trainers. Obviously, trainers are pretty important to decks, so it'll be really interesting to see. It is Singleton as well. So there's only so many trainers around. There's like a good amount of trainers. I'm not too worried, but theoretically, you could not have enough. Say like if you play GLC in live, it's the trainers are a little sketchy. And same thing for like gusting when more specific trainer types. There's boss. There's one boss, and there's some other cards kind of like it. I'm also not sure what era this is from. We see these three cards being from the same year. I think or Twilight Masquerade and Triple Forces back to back. Yes, so not a very big time period to go off of. Presumably, there's obviously going to be a bunch of Scarlet and Violet cards. There might only be Scarlet and Violet. I would not be shocked if there are Mega Era cards. I would not be shocked if it's post-rotation standard legal cards, because this is going to be starting on the 1st of April. And so I'm really excited for this, though. But ultimately, tell me in the comment section what your thoughts are on this. Obviously, there's not too much to see so far, but I'm super excited for this. I love these environments where you have to build a deck out of something more limited. I like pre-release. I made a video actually talking about pre-release, and I kind of complained that there's not a lot of deck building. This is like essentially all deck building. It's super fun. Deck building is really fun in a manner where you're kind of thinking on your feet and stuff. It's really, really fun. But as I said, tell me in the comment section what your thoughts are on this. But I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're excited for this as well. I'd highly recommend going to it. I think it'll be super sick, and I'll certainly cover it more as we get more info. But I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, all the good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.